leaders should be the ones that are picking up balls at the end of practice and picking up trash on the field and sort of all of those things, to show that it's all important. It's not just showing up and sort of puffing your chest. It's having people want to follow you, not asking for it.
Welcome to the Captains and Coaches Podcast. We explore the art and the science of leadership through the lens of athletics and beyond. I'm your host, Tex McCulkin, and today we're exploring lacrosse and leadership with Coach Lindsey Munday, head coach of USC Women's Lacrosse and Team USA Women's Lacrosse that's heading to the Olympics in 2028. Lindsey's journey is a masterclass in leadership evolution, from team captain at Northwestern, where she helped build a program that won back-to-back national championships, to a decade representing Team USA, to becoming a head coach at just 26 years old. She's done something incredibly rare in our sport, built 2 championship caliber programs from absolute scratch. In this conversation, we explore her team captain selection process, how she creates buy-in when there's nothing to see yet, and what it takes to prepare 12 athletes to represent our country on the Olympic stage. With that, let's pass it off to Lindsey to help us raise the game. Ready, and break.
We're on the recruiting trail, so I appreciate you just taking an hour out of your day to connect with us and talk some shop.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Yes, and shout out Coach Nicole Shattuck, Duke University, for making the connection here. And she's also Team USA's strength and conditioning coach. Yeah, well, I want to start from the beginning, because you've had a storied career as an athlete, team captain, and now you're doing amazing things as a coach, both with USC Lacrosse and then USA Lacrosse. So there's so much here, and it started with this mindset and approach of you taking on the opportunity with Northwestern Lacrosse when it was just an East Coast dominated sport, and Northwestern is nowhere near that coast.
Yeah, I was really lucky and really fortunate. I grew up a soccer player. I played soccer, basketball, and lacrosse growing up, but I did club soccer throughout, my younger years, and so I always thought sort of I would go that route and play soccer. And I just happened to go to a lacrosse camp in Boston with my high school friends. It said, "You want to go to a camp in Boston?" And I said, "Sure." And that camp changed, the whole trajectory of my life and my career. And so I had the opportunity to go to Northwestern. It was a new program at the time. So she was really just looking for athletes that she could coach and sort of teach this sport. And so I jumped at the opportunity because I really, with lacrosse, didn't get recruited too many places. So it was kind of a no brainer to go to Northwestern. But I just truly believed in Kelly Monty-Hiller and her vision for the program. And obviously, kind of haven't looked back since.
No, they're definitely storied. So when you're starting there, what shape was the program in versus where you finished at university?
So it was just the second year of the program. We were brand new. There was one class above me, and then we ended up winning my junior and senior year, winning the national championship. So it kind of went from this brand new program to, in the 4th year, winning the national championship, which was, you know, obviously in hindsight, you can look back, but even in the moment, I remember I had this email that I sent to my sister, I think after my sophomore year, that said, season went well, we're getting better. I know we're right there. We're going to turn the corner. And that next year we won the national championship. So you could feel, sort of that trajectory and the potential of the group. And honestly, it makes me sort of circle back to that. It wasn't just about the lacrosse piece. It was truly about our belief, in Kelly, the coach, in the vision she had in each other. We weren't the best group of lacrosse players by any stretch, but we believed. We were, all in and all the time. And I think when you have that perfect storm, you can do great things.
Hmm. And then you were a team captain, correct?
I was, yes.
And so one thing I'd love to highlight is that first year, that entry level leadership, when the year before you're on the same level as your teammates, but now you take a step up and you're this 360-degree leader where you got to communicate up to coach, you got to
Hmm.
communicate down to your teammates, and then lead across with your co-captains. So take us into that first year and the mindset, your approach, where you had this new responsibility to take the team where they had not gone before.
Yeah, well, I was a captain, my senior year. We had great leadership, from the grade above us, as we continued to build. And so, to your point, I think they did a phenomenal job leading by example, and holding a standard for the entire team of sort of what we needed to do and how we needed to buy in. So I think it's just so important when you're younger to really learn from the older players, to really kind of see what leadership styles you might like, and it gives you the opportunity when you're younger to sort of practice that leadership in really low stakes
Mhm.
opportunities, just small conversations with teammates. Maybe you start with your peers, but then when it is your turn to lead, whether that's junior year, senior year, you're a little bit more confident and comfortable, and you've taken all these lessons from other people on maybe things that did well, maybe things you want to change. And so you're able to sort of structure your leadership through those experiences.
Yeah. And then you also leveled up into coaching your team. So I had a similar experience where I went from team captain to graduate assistant coach. So
Yeah.
these were my teammates, they were my friends, but now they were my athletes. Now, leveling up in that responsibility and sense of leadership, what challenges did you face in that first year as a coach?
Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard because I think, for me, and how the program was operating, you you certainly as a coach want to be their friend and all of that, but it had to be in a different light. And so, relationships did have to change a little bit just for the time being, because it is a profession. It is, you do have to be mature, and you have to draw a line as a coach, whether you're an assistant or a head coach, and whether you're a captain. Like, there is a line that sort of has to be drawn of professionalism and things like that. So, our relationships changed a bit, but also in the sense, I was that liaison from the players, to the coaching staff. I had just been there. I was still playing and competing, so I knew what they were going through. So you have that sense of similarities, of things that you can connect on, but your relationship had to change a little bit.
Yeah. And I believe it helped that you were still playing. So, Team USA, we're going to get to the future of Team USA, but you were Team USA in this time that you were coaching. What was lacrosse like internationally at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I started playing, and I think again, all of this is, I tried out for Team USA multiple times and did not make it. So I also think it's really easy, even when I'm talking to recruits now, for them to think, oh, she got a full ride, or she was recruited everywhere because I've had success. Not the case, and so I just think it's so important to note that, like, putting yourself in situations to try out and not make the team, and have that sort of, North Star and those goals that you want to get. I think it just means so much, and it sort of challenges you in a different way. But I did have the opportunity to play, and again, I think I just always, I think, constantly wanted to get better, and I never thought, I was on Team USA for 10 years, and every tryout I was nervous and thought that I wouldn't make it and that, I was going to get cut, when I had been on, won a gold medal and been on the all world team, the World Cup before. And I'm thinking I'm going to get cut, because that's the mindset. Again, I think all mindsets can kind of be, your biggest strength and maybe your, a weakness as well. But I think it's just always striving to get better, never being comfortable with where you're at. And I think for Team USA, it's, at the forefront has to be, you're a role model. You have
Hmm.
Team USA across your chest. You have to have a lot of pride of that. You have to put your ego aside. You have to truly, be ambassadors of this sport while competing at the highest level. And I think, you can't take any of those things lightly.
Yeah, and I'd love to highlight the leadership aspect of Team USA because with a college team, you're hanging out with your teammates every single day. You're going to meals together, you're living together, and time is easy. So leadership, it's not easy, but it comes just with the nature of getting to know and build a relationship. Now with Team USA, girls are all over the country. So how did you go about taking on a leadership role when everybody is everywhere?
It's interesting. I think a lot of probably the best leaders maybe don't try to be leaders. You sort of it does have to have a natural sort of ability to it, but luckily with Team USA, I mean, everyone is so motivated and so self-motivated that people are, you talk and connect, but a lot of us were still either playing or coaching. And so you were able to compartmentalize a little bit, but you were training on your own. You were, being ready. But then once you're there, it's about coming together and connecting and continuing to build those relationships and figuring out again how can we all come together as a team, because everyone is so talented, everyone is so good at lacrosse, but how can we be the best team? And I think throughout tryout process, you saw that because great players maybe didn't make the team, but again, in terms of the makeup of each team, it has to be people that can complement each other. And like I said, gonna put your ego to the side. And again, like, leaders should be the ones that are picking up balls at the end of practice and picking up trash on the field and sort of all of those things, to show that it's all important. It's not just showing up and sort of puffing your chest. It's having people want to follow you, not asking for it.
Timeout. Let's take a second to talk about training and introducing you to the Old Bull Training Program. This is the program that I'm following and writing for myself because I was bored and beat up with other training programs out there. Now I focus in on fun and a very time-effective and efficient training program that also targets different joint issues that I'm having: shoulders, hips, back, knees, ankles, everything from my athletic playing career and then career as a strength and conditioning coach, lifting every single day. My body's beat up as I approach 40. This program is focused on building it back up in a very time-effective and efficient manner. I encourage you to check out the program. Most fun you'll have throughout the week, and how I'm structuring the program and giving you the opportunity to choose your own adventure each day. For a 7-day free trial, click the link in the show notes, check out the program, and join me on Old Bull. And now, back to the show. Ready, and break.
I'd love to highlight, while we're in this era of your career, the relationships you had with your coaches. And that's one thing that I find insanely valuable, both in my past athletic career and now current coaching career, is just building that bond and relationship. Were there moments of struggle? Did you have disagreements? How did you manage those? And what were some major lessons that you're still holding on to today as head coach?
Yeah, I think in maybe it's like I don't want to say suck up in me, but like, I don't know. I was brought up to respect my coaches and listen to them and do what they say. And I think people joke now too about like coaches have favorites and things like that. It's like, well, the coaches' favorites are typically the ones that work hard and listen to them. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not sort of this secret about what works and what doesn't. So I don't know. For me, like, I've always respected my coaches. I've always, listened to them and tried to execute what they're saying. And I think because of that, it then allows conversations. Obviously we're the ones, on the field. So then they ask you, what are you seeing? What do you think? Or, how are you feeling with this? And then it's a little bit more collaborative, but I do think it starts with respect always on both sides, from coaches to players and players to coaches. But I think it then allows sort of that open dialogue of communication to find out what works best on the field.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I want to transition now to your first head coaching opportunity. Did you always foresee yourself as being a head coach? What was getting that call like?
Yeah, I always did. I knew I wanted to coach from, a really young age, in high school. I knew it. There's just always, I knew sports have always been just, everything and just so important to me. I think they've created relationships, learned lessons. I just always knew I wanted to be involved in that. And so, um, having the opportunity to coach as an assistant under Kelly was incredible. Learned so much, and then getting this opportunity at USC, I had to kind of fake it till I made it. I had to pretend at 26 I knew exactly what I was doing, but just so incredibly grateful. Again, I've had just wonderful experiences. So first and foremost, as a coach, that's my goal, right? Prepare my players for life after college, but provide a great experience and win, and learn lessons and have fun doing it. But, it has to be provide great experience and, teach them lessons and prepare them.
Hmm. And what was your first year at USC?
I was hired in 2011 and our first season was 2013.
Hmm. And now you've seen West Coast lacrosse just explode. I mean, there
Hmm.
was no Pac-12 lacrosse back then, right?
Yeah, no, no. And now
Was
it's Big Ten. So I've gone through a couple
Big Ten.
changes.
That's right. I still forget sometimes. What? Yeah, I would love to spend some time with USC. Talk to us about your vision, because you had one of the most rare experiences as a coach is to start a program from scratch.
Hmm.
So, what was leading with vision like before there was even a game on the schedule?
Yeah, I think again the vision for USC is win a national championship. And at USC that can happen. I think again for me and women's lacrosse in general, but I wanted a place that had both things at a high level, both high athletics but also high academics, so it could
Mhm.
prepare our players for their careers, their futures. I also think being in LA, we're one of the few schools, if at all, but has all three. We are also in Los Angeles, and the culture, the city, the just all of the things you can experience. And so that was so important for me. But it's really fun, building a program. It's really cool to get players to buy into something that isn't there. And I honestly, I wish you could recreate it, even now being 14 years later, and it's kind of impossible. It's
Mhm.
there is just something so special about the beginning that you just can't recreate. It's the first goal ever, it's the first win of the program ever, it's all of these things that you're building that have never been done before. I think you can recreate things, on current teams and make it your own, but it truly is just so special to have people buy in, to have a team of all freshmen, basically freshmen and sophomores, and see them grow. It's really really special. So it was amazing to be able to do that as a player at Northwestern, and then to have that at USC was really really special.
Yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity for you to then communicate your experience of like, hey, in 1, 2, 3, 4 years, we were able to execute. Uh,
Hmm.
and for that recruiting in the first class, I mean, what was your pitch? What was your motivation? Were you getting girls from the East Coast or taking the rest of the country west of the Mississippi?
Yeah, I mean, we were taking anyone. But no, I mean, it's come to California, come to US, you can always go back to the East Coast, but come to California, spend 4 years here, get an amazing education, be part of something brand new. And it was really fun. It was really fun to kind of, see, cuz really, I mean, I didn't know what USC was really all about, when I came on my interview. Like I don't think campus or anything like that until you're here. And so getting kids out to visit, bringing them to the beach and, seeing the Hollywood sign and just all of those things, I think, is really cool. But yeah, it was fun to get players out and to build this team and to get people to buy in to something that really hadn't been, it wasn't a thing.
And talk to us about that first game, because I know you scheduled somebody special.
We did, we did. We scheduled Northwestern, who is the reigning, number one reigning national champion, number one team in the country. And we got our butts kicked, which I kind of probably expected to happen. But look, if you want to be the best, you have to play the best. And so for
Mm.
me and for us, it was all right. Let's do this. Let's start off with the best, because at the end of the day, it's going to show us where we need to be. And I think the really cool thing about that scheduling, we played Northwestern every year. And so year one, we lost by a lot. Year two, we lost by a little less than that. Year three, we lost in overtime. And year four, we
Oh,
beat them.
wow.
So
There
to
you
see
go.
that in real time with the players that we had was very, very cool and a pretty tangible, metric of success. But yeah, it was like, let's go. Here we go. We're playing the best, and it is what it is, and this is where we want to be. So let's see it.
Does that continue to be a rivalry now?
Well, now we're back in their conference. So,
Oh,
so yeah, we kind of didn't have the ability to schedule them for a few years there, but now we're in the same conference, so we'll be playing them every year, which is awesome. Again, like they're a phenomenal program. Again, couldn't have more respect, obviously, for Kelly, but they're one of the best. So yeah, I love that they're in our conference, and we're going to compete and and have games against them all the time, which is awesome.
Hmm. I'd love to deep dive into your captainship program now because you've been a team captain at multiple levels and you get the opportunity every single year to select new leaders within your team. What's USC women's lacrosse approach to selecting and finding the right women to lead them each year?
Yeah, we've sort of molded this process. We've gone back and forth. We've tried different things. Currently, we have our we do it over the summer, and we've you have to apply. So
Hmm.
the girls have to submit their own names and a reason, why they want to be a captain and what they would bring, and then we share that with the team, and then the team votes. So as a coach, I don't vote. I think there's just so much, that happens off the field that that the girls really know and feel and that we're not a part of. And so I think it's important that it's their vote, it's their choice. Um but they have to vote, they have to submit that vote and then they choose. And we also currently, again, we do it in the summer before the freshmen get to campus because we've also felt, I mean, the freshmen don't know, they don't know them yet. They don't know their leadership styles. I think sometimes when the freshmen come in right away, if you don't, if you wait to vote until October or November, you sort of have people campaigning potentially a little bit, which I don't
Yeah.
think really is too genuine and might sort of skew some votes. Um, and if you have them vote day one, again, they don't know them. They probably just vote for maybe the best player. And I don't think that's always the case in terms of leadership. So we've done it that way for the last couple of years. So it's the returners who nominate and the returners who vote. And then, and we say also you have to get 60% of the votes of the team. So if, let's say there's one girl who gets a ton of votes, but then the next skew is, 7 votes, 6 votes, 5 votes, like you have to get over at least over 50%. I think we've gone 60, but it has to be, a vast majority of the team who is feeling that way.
Hmm. Do you feel there's a right number of captains, one, two, three, four, or is it this team this year?
Yeah, I don't. I think I think it just is dependent on the group. If there's more leadership that year, we're happy to do that. Last year we had one. This year we have two. So it's really just dependent on the votes. And we had asked that player, because I was a solo captain of Team USA, and we had that conversation too. It was like, is this too much? And
Mhm.
so I think it takes the right player to, be okay only being the one. We tried to then support her with some leadership committees and things like that. But she was okay with it. So we went with one this year. Two players got voted. So we're going with two.
Nice. Yeah. And then was one a captain the previous season, or are they both brand new this year?
They're both brand new. We also, now call it 4 years ago, we thought about, and for maybe 2 years we did it. We had to have a junior captain, um, because we wanted them to be able to sort of be in those conversations so that they could learn without a little bit pressure. And then we went away from that just because then we kind of felt like, again, people were just voting for a junior because they had to. So
Hmm.
again, I think that's the biggest thing too, is like we're open to changing this process as we go, because I don't think it's always a one size fits all approach. We kind of have to be able to adapt and kind of, mix and mold and see what works and see what doesn't. So we've tried the junior captain. We're not doing that right now. So it's just those two.
Has there ever been a moment where you elected a captain at any point in the season because this person they just leveled up over the 3 or 4 months leading up to spring ball?
Yeah, years and years ago, the coaches added a captain, and I don't think it went over well. By probably it was probably half and half. Half were totally on board because she had been voted prior. Probably half were maybe not thrilled that we did that. So again, I'm not opposed to it, but I think again, it has to be pretty obvious and pretty clear to the team, because again, at the end of the day, like we need their support. It's not just us telling them, who should be a leader. Like I think again, it's really important that they're actually a leader, so they should get voted by the team. So I've done it before. Again, I'm probably hesitant to do it again, unless it's really obvious.
Yeah. And you mentioned the student athletes, they have to apply for this position. Do you have requirements, like job requirements? Are they going to apply like they'd apply for a job so that they establish and they know the expectations of you and the coaching staff?
Yeah, it's a great question. We haven't so far. It's kind of just whatever they want to say to the team in regards of how they want to lead, through their experiences that they've had. So we haven't done that in the past, but not opposed to anything in the future. I think the biggest thing that that we continue to talk to the team and the captains about, but it does need to be collaborative with us.
Mhm.
Obviously as captains, you are going to handle some things without the coaches. And I also think there are things that sometimes they think they should handle without the coaches, that maybe we should be involved in. But I think the more collaborative it can be, the better, just because then you truly are on the same page and you sort of know what's going on so you guys can tackle this together. So that's sort of the biggest thing. But I also think with the votes, and them applying and us, having these conversations, so it allows us too, for people who want to be leaders who maybe didn't get voted, to have pretty honest conversations about, hey, I know you wanted this, you didn't get the votes. And some people have sort of been confused at that, and we've had real conversations about, hey, you got X amount of votes. And so maybe, what's coming off, isn't what you think it is. And I mean, I have to, and I've said this to them, every year I get a review from my boss that sometimes, you don't want to hear. And it's a little tough because you kind of have to look in the mirror. And so I think as hard as those conversations are, I think the sort of application process allows us to have some conversations with people who want to be leaders that maybe aren't coming off the right way, to have them sort of, change their leadership style a little bit.
Yeah, self-awareness is that first key step of leadership. So if
Hmm.
their tonality is coming off and maybe they're only leading by example and they think that's enough, all these different things, and this creates an opportunity now for the whole team to level up through your application process because you can have these one-on-one conversations with all the people that are interested and believe that they are leaders.
Hmm.
Um, for the people that don't believe they're leaders, what's some of your approaches for reading body language or the feel the energy of certain individuals where you can level them up, where you see leadership potential, but they don't believe in themselves quite yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's probably just through conversations. When we see that, I mean, I had a conversation with my one of my attackers the other day, who is a returner. She kind of was not happy getting pushed around a little bit, and so I kind of got just was like, well, do you not think that this is going to happen in a game? Like, one, you're saying something to a freshman who's like probably scared anyways, but do you not think you're going to get pushed around in a game? So just having those conversations of when, because again, at the end of the day, they're still learning, they're still growing. So we're all going to make mistakes in this, but I think we do have to recognize when we make those mistakes, and sort of own up to them. One way we just, for everybody, sort of communicate and communicate expectations, but our three buckets are sort of attitude, effort, execution. So it's just an easy way for us to say, again, to your point, someone works their butt off, they execute really, really well, but like their attitude isn't great. It's coming off in a certain way. So we can say, hey, you work harder than anyone else and you execute better than anyone else, and we got to work on this. Or the reverse, hey, we love how hard you're working, your attitude is spot on, but your execution is, we got to fix that. So it's been a way the last few years that we've been able to just kind of be clear and concise with some of our conversations, whether it's leadership based, skill based, or effort based.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. And I mean, it clarifies, and these are all opportunities they can fix this themselves. It's
Mhm.
not, hey, blaming somebody else, or hey, coach doesn't like me, or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. These are all opportunities for them to hold the mirror up and self course correct
Mhm.
to then get on track with the team's vision and mission. I like that. Where did these three come from? Did you have a whole list that then, no, let's just focus on these three?
No, this was my one of my assistants who came here. This is her second year, so we brought that at the beginning of last year and continued it this year. So she brought that in, and I loved it just because, again, I think it's easy to get lost with your words. I think especially, and I actually had a conversation with the team recently because I think vulnerability is huge, right? From them, but also from myself. And I said, I struggle sometimes sort of talking to you guys about, maybe if you're coming off selfish. We were kind of talking about selfishness in a way. And I said, I really struggle, having this conversation with you because I know it's going to come off wrong. I know you're going to think coach thinks I'm selfish. Coach doesn't, like me. Coach thinks this. And I'm not saying that, but I know that's what you're going to hear. And so I need you to like, sort of allow me to have this conversation with you when it's coming off that way because I'm avoiding it. Like I'm not doing it because I know it's not going to go well. And so in order for us to be our best, I have to be able to. So if you guys can give me some grace to know that like I don't think of you as a person, it's just coming off right now. So again, it was just a way to kind of allow me to lead them, right? In the best way and allow them to sort of receive that. But I think sometimes you have to just like be open and honest of like, look, I'm struggling with this. I think it's going to get us better, but I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. So I need your help with this, and I've had that conversation multiple times throughout the years with our team. I mean, time for one is a big thing for me of like being on time. And I really get pissed when we don't. And so I had to be real. Like this was years and years ago. I was like, can you guys just like start warming up on time? Because I'm starting practice already pissed off, which you don't want and I don't want. But like it's just easy. Just start before, right. Just start the warm up and don't make me say it every day. You'll get a better version of me and like, we'll all be good. Like, please just do it. So sometimes having those conversations, I think, is necessary to just be like a real human. This is a big thing for me. So if you guys could be better, we're gonna be good.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that because you're modeling the expectation. You want them to be vulnerable, so open to receiving coaching, and then having grace for each other. Because girls
Mhm.
are going to make mistakes during high pressure situations. How do they want others treating them? Certainly with grace. So then we should aim to treat each other with that same respect. I spent a lot of time tackling culture killers. I refer to them as envy, resentment, entitlement, and these are all natural human tendencies. So it's important to just address them, and you did a great job of just highlighting here of you being vulnerable and saying things that really made you upset. You resent when people get late because that disrupts the practice plan, and now we have to make up that 2 minutes somewhere else, and that
Mhm.
2 minutes could be 2 reps that could, yeah, I get in that same spiral as well. But
Yeah.
that is also, you're painting the picture where they're on your time, similar
Mhm.
to when they go and start their professional careers
Right.
in the real world. They're on their boss's time. So
Mhm.
let's aim to make the most and respect one another. So you're presenting that pressure, and I mean, giving a little attitude and aggression that is going to naturally come out in short moments during a game where
Mhm.
you still want them to succeed and have passion, but it may be quick. The may feel like a negative tone, but it's no, I need this now.
Yeah.
Uh, so you're almost dosing that before. I imagine you're doing it intentionally. So props for that, right? Before the game tension
Right.
and tone comes to the voice.
Yeah, and I think you have to try to find ways to, again, like the heightened emotions of games, and sometimes again, I understand that, sometimes in practice it doesn't, you can easily sort of make an excuse as to why it's not that important. But we say it all the time. It's like we're preparing for that national championship, again. I mean, it's just we're pushing you for that level, and you have to be okay with it. And I think, again, as long as you continue to say, this is why I'm pushing you, because I believe, and we say that all the time, it's like, I wouldn't be pushing an individual or the team if I didn't believe in them. If I knew they couldn't do it, I'm not going to, sort of get on someone and say, run faster, work harder, execute better. But when I know that we can do it, that's when I'm going to be hard on us because, again, like we know we have another level.
Hmm. And have you ever had any athletes that they didn't feel that? They may have felt attacked when a coach is really pouring into them. They're
Oh, yeah.
confusing the signals based off past experiences.
Oh, yeah. And that's it. That same thing that I mentioned kind of before that, I mean, again, I had someone very recently, in a fitness test, kind of her third rep of the 300. I felt as if mentally she sort of gave up. And it was pretty clear to me. And I grabbed her after and I said, "Hey, like I feel like regardless of whether you would have passed the test or not, I think you could have, I think you could have got faster. I think you sort of gave up mentally. I think you could have done better that third rep." Later, they came in my office and sort of said, "I didn't do that. I didn't give up. I didn't do that." I'm like, "Look, I'm not saying I'm saying, I'm trying to push you to be better. Like I'm saying again, like national championship, if some your body language looks defeated, if your words coming out of your mouth sound defeated, I'm your opponent. I'm going to say, let's go. Like we're winning." And there was like a big disconnect between her and I in that conversation because I think she felt as if I was saying, she didn't give full effort, that she's, constantly, she's not strong mentally and all this stuff. I'm like, in that moment, I think you could, like, that's what I'm pushing you to be. But I think a lot of times it's very easy, and I don't fault them for this, but I think they feel attacked. That like I'm saying this is the person you are, or this is, who you are. It's like, no, 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 just in that, we all can all make mistakes. We're all, in moments need to learn and need to grow. So yeah, there's been disconnect, in some conversations, and hopefully we can then continue to find a way to meet in the middle. But yeah, that's definitely happened.
Yeah, I like that. I've talked with some other coaches recently and framing that as those emotions, that's energy in motion. If you feel that, I want you to turn that into action on the field or during the conditioning or during the practice field. So I don't want you to bottle it up because then it turns into a belief where
Hmm.
you are that or you are labeling yourself as that
Yep.
versus I felt your effort was here. Well, we can change that because it was just a feeling and then use that as motivation.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that's a good conversation and good on her for coming knocking on your door
Hmm.
to follow up on that. That
Yeah.
takes a lot of courage as well.
Hmm.
Um, I want to speak to practice. I love to spend time with practice. I'm a practice nerd. So, how are you approaching and just organizing your practices within skill work or schemes, fundamentals versus? And I've seen some interviews where he introduces some chaos into stick drills.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think every team is different. Obviously, throughout the year is different. I mean, right now for the fall, it's a lot of skill development. We're really kind of honing into like stick work to trying new things, just being a little more dynamic with sort of our stick work and our shooting and our footwork. And it's funny because even as a coach, sometimes like I'm like, oh man, like it's a lot of, not standing around, but it's like I want to be able to get after it and
Mhm.
do schemes and do all this stuff. But I sort of have to be okay with, starting slow and focusing on the skill. And even today, it was really cool. Like, we've been doing a lot of the stick work, and again, it's going to look bad, right? It's going to get worse before it gets better. And we talked to the girls about that, but in live play, someone did something where they scored a goal that like we've been doing in stick work and everyone went nuts. And I was like, oh yay, like awesome. You know what I mean? Like, so definitely a lot of skill development right now. Just a lot of trying to get out of our comfort zones a little bit, try new things, just be a little more dynamic. And then we'll get into sort of some schemes as we get into our fall ball events and things like that. But I think skill development is so, so important. And so again, you have to spend time on it. And sometimes it feels like you're losing on the bigger picture stuff, but you got to kind of start small first and then be ready to kind of go into the bigger stuff.
Mhm. And when do you feel it's appropriate to mix in all the schemes and install your offense? Is it waiting on the spring, or are you starting that in the fall?
We'll start that in the fall. We'll get to a point where we'll get that in the fall, and typically we'll do like a big build up. If even if it's in a practice, like we'll do a shooting drill that's like the beginning of our play, and then we'll do the second step of it in the next drill, and then we're like, see, now we're gonna put it all together, and now we're gonna play live. So we try to really kind of break it down and build it up, just so that they're getting more and more comfortable with it. So that's kind of typically how we go. But yeah, I mean, before we start playing games in October, we'll need to, have some semblance of a structure. But again, I'm really trying to not think about that now and just focus on the skill.
Yeah. And do you feel in organizing groups and drills, like there's sometimes not as skilled individuals that may be more athletics and you recruited them for potential? Like, how are you mixing up your groups to then get the most out of the seniors, the finesse, the super skilled, and then the girls that are raw, but you just see great things out of?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, even now, we're like really trying to mix the groups. Last week we had a group of sort of all freshmen, and we're like, no, we need to mix it up. And I think it also, again, if we're talking leadership, I think it allows the older players to help them communicate, pull them along when you're playing with them, and don't just say I want to play with the older girls because we know what we're doing. We have to bring people along, and I think that's a leadership, skill as well. And so I think that's really important to sort of mix up those players. And again, like, we obviously try to also do small stuff and bigger stuff, because to your point, we have players that are a little bit better in bigger spaces, and so we need to give them confidence too, while trying to improve their game and their stick work and things like that. But we definitely have that now. There's some athletes who are struggling, in the smaller sort of drills and the stick work type stuff, because that's just not their style. But we're trying to sort of merge, their style and, the finesse piece.
Yeah, I did write down style in quotation marks here because that's why I love lacrosse versus a football where it's like do your job, go one direction. Lacrosse, you can out athlete and you can mix it up and be so creative within that, but sometimes the style is not in line with fundamentals. So how do
Hmm.
you as a coach allow this like creativity and style and expression of athleticism on the field versus the fundamentals? With men's lacrosse, it's freaking sidearm and just getting these kids to paint the fence sometimes.
Yeah.
So what is that balance for you for your team?
Yeah, I think, well, and right now I think we're trying to get more, comfortable with more of that. But I think you have to prove that you can do it. In terms of sidearm, for example, I'm always like, not everyone can shoot. Not everyone can step down from the 8 meter. In women's lacrosse, like players can, and it's a great shot, but maybe not your skill set. So you have to prove it. And it has to be the right time and place. I think sometimes I watch and like someone's ripping a behind the back when no one's in front of them, and it's like, well, we could also just score that. So I think there's a time and place, and you have to prove you have the skill set to do it. But we want to get our players the skill set to be able to do that. Because I do think just the way, people are playing defense and all, you need to have different release points. You need to be able to sidearm. You need to be able to behind the back. And so there's a time and place, but I think it's important to have that skill.
Timeout. Text here at Train Heroic headquarters, meeting with the team to talk about the coaching experience that I'm able to provide for my athletes. So if you're a coach and want to put your program out there on an app that athletes actually enjoy using, Train Heroics for you. I've been using it since 2014, delivering literally over tens of thousands of workouts to athletes, and the Train Heroic allows me to provide the unique coaching experience that I want to. Uploading video, providing coaching feedback, directions, and building a community. That's why I love Train Heroic. And if you want to take your athletes where they can't take themselves, that they want to go, head to trainheroic.com/captains and check out how you can deliver programming to them. And now back to the show. Ready, and rip.
It's USA 2028 time. So lacrosse, spoiler alert, lacrosse is going to be in the Olympics this year. However, it's a different game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a version of sixes. And I feel you're a great coach to take on this challenge. So it's new sport to the Olympics, give or take 100 years, new sport to the Olympics. and you were a new coach to start the USC program, so you're a perfect fit. Explain to us the process to get this position and then what we can look forward to with the new version of this sport coming in 2028 to
Yeah,
LA.
so I mean, I knew, I was a part of the US program for 10 years, and so I always knew I would love the opportunity to be a part of it again as a coach. Especially with taking on USC when I first, retired and that as a player, like I wasn't ready, right? I was focused on USC. I needed to kind of be all in on that. So first of all, the timing for me was right, feeling like, I'm ready to do this. And then, you have to apply. And so you have to sit through, the interview process and talk about your vision and what you see. But, again, getting that call again, I'm not proud, too proud to admit, like I teared up, like I was in the airport, I sat down, I had got the call and they said I got it. And I was like, oh my God, you're just tearing up and just emotional because it means a lot. And so to be able to be, representing Team USA in this capacity is really special and it's an honor and it's not lost on me how just grateful that I am. Sixes is so fun, and so when we're talking about creativity
Hmm.
and skill, and it is couldn't be the epitome of that. Even it's fast, it's back and forth, but you really do have the ability to sort of showcase the incredible skill of these athletes. I mean, it is, sure you're shooting, overhand, but you're on breakaways and you're faking and you're throwing behind the backs between the legs, like all of it. It's really fun to watch. It's really exciting, and so it's been really fun learning the sport. And to your point too, it's been really fun working with the players on what they're seeing. Because
Hmm.
I haven't competed in sixes, so we need their feedback. We need their expertise on, hey, what are you guys seeing out there? How are you feeling? What is the subbing like? What do you need to do? So a lot of back and forth conversations with them on kind of how to collaborate and how we can be our best.
And how many, I know there's six on the field. How many girls are on the team that are total going
So
to
it's
represent the country?
Yeah, it's only 12 players. So it's, I think in my opinion, the hardest team to make. The selection process for, we were in China this summer for the World Games. That selection process is so hard. I mean, again, there's so many great players. There's so many talented players, and we're trying to navigate this. And so it's really difficult decision. But again, that's where you want to be, right? You want to have really tough decisions as a coach as to, the makeup of this team and how we can go. And we're still learning with it in terms of the kind of players we want and need and all of that. But yeah, it's been really exciting.
And what are the tryout stages going to be here? We had World Games and we got, I mean, only a couple summers left before it's go time.
Yeah, the US system isn't doing sort of a true tryout process anymore. It's sort of a player pool that you can continue to invite to different kind of training camps. So you have this ability to sort of invite new people, pull from old players. You can kind of, the makeup could be anything you want. So typically a training camp is 24 players. And then, if and when we have events that we need to choose 12, that would be the number there. So it allows us, and obviously we have a number of young players that are coming through the mix. So these training camps do allow to say, hey, because they're also timeline wise. Sometimes, I mean, our next event is end of September, so in 2 weeks. And college kids are still playing with their colleges. So sometimes it's, hey, come to training camp for a few days, but then go play with your colleges that weekend. It's not this crazy stressful tryout process. It's, hey, let's get you in the mix with sixes. You haven't been to a camp before. Let's start to get you comfortable. And then, you can go back to your college. We're going to play this event with, we're for the event in September, we're taking the 12 that, that played and won a gold medal. And we'll have other people at camp to start, being in the mix with sixes and our style and things like that.
Hmm. And how important do you feel that world competition experience is leading up to the Olympics?
Yeah, you can it's huge. To play international competition is really important. I think every country is very, very different, I think, in terms of how they play and sort of how you need to navigate, so you can play your best, but the pressure of, a gold medal game, it's like you can't replicate that. And so, we learned lessons, I think, both as a team, but also individuals throughout that, individuals who maybe had, not their best game, but also then let it affect them, mentally. And so, I had to have conversations to say, because again, these are players that I don't know super, super
Mhm.
well in terms of that level yet. And so it was like, hey, how can I help you? Because I knew you were, going a little bit in your head. I didn't really know how to get you out of it. I don't know what you need. Here's what what do you think? And so we had those conversations. But again, that international competition gives you that heightened pressure of, okay, we got to execute. And if I'm not execute, what can I do to help my team?
Mhm. And now going back to one of my earlier questions where you were captain of USA and had the challenge of bringing everyone together and leading from that, what are the steps you taking now as head coach of that team to helping keep them as tight as glue as can be over the next few years to really have a gelling team in the right time?
Yeah, I mean, I think the really cool thing about this experience in China that we had training camp at USC, and then we went over there, but it's only 12 players, so it's like you have to be connected. There's only 12 of you, so we kept joking because every time we'd go, we're like, "Is everyone here?" Up, yep, that's it. You barely have to pay attention because there's only 12, and I kind of tasked them in the beginning before our first game of coming up with, sort of a theme, a word, a phrase, to that they could go back to, in these moments. And so, and I think, with that, it was like, hey, you don't have to like, let's talk about this now, but we don't have to decide this yet. Like I think sometimes when I love, a word, phrase, theme that connects, I think it's important that the players, I could bring one as a coach, but I also think it's important that the players sort of have their own. But I also think a lot of times that can't happen meeting one, and for USC, it might not even happen in the fall. It might happen in April, but for Team USA, they came back the I think it was going into the playoffs, so the last two games, and so they presented what they, what they felt and what they wanted to be, and again to the point of connection and all of that. I mean, they were together. They wanted it to be. It was link up. Like link up. Like let's be together. Like we're all together. And so that was something that resonated with them because of their connection, because of how close they were, because they know that again um, their whole, the collective is better than, the sum of its parts. But, they really bought into that. And it was something that they sort of came up with, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, I like that. Or link up. I mean, it's that one word cue to get your mind right, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. There's some depth and layers to it. I'm curious on your approach to Team USA and then team captain. So I've had on the podcast Nicole Haverland. She was Team USA women's rugby captain. She's been to 3 Olympics, but when her captaincy, it just so happened to be 2 years, but it was in an off rotation of the Olympics. So they run captains every 2 years. Could be one woman, could be two, but she was leading the team just in international competitions, just not the Olympics. So shout out Nicole. These are her World Cup cleats behind me, but yeah.
Nice.
What's your approach to selecting and having this captain for this inaugural Olympics?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, again, I guess I don't have a plan going into 28 yet, but what we did do for China is kind of similarly. We had the girls vote, it was, hey, what do you guys think? Who do you want to vote for? And so we tallied those votes, and there were two captains that were chosen. I think the coolest thing though about that was everyone was a leader. I mean, the two captains that were chosen, again, there was probably another third that was probably the main voice in all the huddles, and getting people fired up and getting people together. So we did choose two. And that was awesome, and they did a great job. But I think again, everyone has to be a leader, and so to give people sort of some leeway on being a voice, aside from that was important.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, learning experience for everyone, even coach. Uh,
Yep.
I mean, y'all just built a beautiful new facility. Is the Olympics going to be hosted on campus? Do you get the home field advantage?
So slightly, we are going to be at it's BMO Stadium, which is right next to the Coliseum. So it's right next to USC campus. We actually got to do a tour of BMO with the Sixes squad, and then we went to a soccer game there later that evening. So just a cool opportunity to walk on the field, to see the locker rooms, to see this space that, again, in 2028, lacrosse will be at.
Hmm. That's amazing. I'll be there, men's and women's,
Yeah.
just fandom decked out and all the flags, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, if people want to continue to follow and learn how you're building and leading your team, where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, really just through Instagram right now, USC Trojans Lax could use some more, shoot a follow, see all the crazy things we're doing. And then, I have an Instagram, Lindsey Munday, personal and USC, but yeah, follow USC, follow Team USA. Big things coming for USA and
Yeah,
USC.
can't wait. So thank you for your time connecting us. And then the lacrosse strength and conditioning is taking off. So shout out to Nicole just being a
Yeah.
part of Team USA and helping the women get geared up.
Yeah, awesome. Shout out,
Cool.
Nicole.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And listeners, thank you for tuning in. Bye. And scene.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Captains and Coaches podcast. If you like what you heard here today, be sure to rate and review the show. If you want more coaching and leadership insights, sign up for our newsletter at captainsandcoaches.com. If you're looking to raise your game and represent the brand, we have all new swag at shop.captainsandcoaches.com. Check it out. Rip the old bull program, Captains and Coaches. Thank you for tuning in and helping us raise the game. Ready, and break. See.